Photographers, do you ever feel like you've actually failed at photography? Well, let me tell you something. You haven't failed at all, but here is why. Feeling like a failure is something that most photographers do go through, including me as well, and I feel like it is something that most photographers that are starting out, they tend to want to avoid that sort of thing, which is completely fine. Like, everyone wants to avoid failure at something, but it will always happen regardless, even if you try to avoid it. And I think with failure especially is something to not be so harsh on yourself with, and just try to try to improve yourself in terms of that aspect, and just try to improve in any aspect of photography, including photo editing, which I wasn't even good at until about 2 to 3 years ago, maybe 4, I don't know. But you know, like most photographers, they tend to not see progress at the start, which is completely fine. Like, you're not going to see progress until you've actually tried to do it for at least more than 6 months, because if you're doing it for just about 3 months or so, you're not going to see improvement. It's like going to a new job and then thinking that, oh, I'm going to be the best at it within a week. It's like, well, you're going to have to learn a few other things about the job depending on what the job is. Like, for example, for me, I'm a bartender, so I basically need to learn about what they sell and the customers, and then I need to know about the location, and then I also need to know about what type of drinks actually are like the top sellers, and see what drinks are not really selling too much, and try to push that off if we're running out of kegs and stuff like that. That's a pretty good example. Maybe your photos aren't actually turning out the way it should be, as because you don't really know much about your settings, or you're either trying to test out some new things and you're just kind of just making little tiny errors, which is completely fine in terms of taking photos. Sometimes with most photographers, when it comes towards this, they tend to compare themselves towards others, as I feel like, especially with me, comparing myself, is something that I've always had to do and had to try and, you know, solve a problem. Because when you're starting out, you're gonna try and solve many problems within your own mind. Because when you're starting out in something, you tend to look at someone and then you try to, you know, see what type of photos they've actually taken photos of, and then you try that type of style, but you don't actually like that style. But the only reason why you're doing that style is because that your favorite photographer is actually doing it. So you're just gonna keep doing it, so then you can actually, you know, become that person. But you're not gonna become that person, because that person is someone else. Whereas for you, like, let's say for example, I like to do street photography, and if I'm gonna try and do, let's say, fashion, it's not really gonna work. I mean, street photography and fashion, they can work out, but the thing is, I don't really know too much about fashion, and plus my clothing in some other videos is not that great, and I don't really have a fashion sense, so that's not really gonna work out. It may take me a while to actually get used to, you know, taking photos of fashion, and what types of fashion stores and models and stuff actually like to, you know, what type of photos they actually like. I mean, sorry, Jesus. But sometimes when you're looking at social media for that aspect, you tend to, you know, say to yourself, I'll never be as good as other photographers. And that's actually what I've said to myself multiple times at the start, where I was comparing myself towards people when I was doing a TAFE course, when I was actually starting out photography. So I saw all these photos, and I see my photos, they looked bad, oversaturated, they didn't really look that natural. But the great example for that was for like for example, this photo here. If I was gonna start taking photos and I saw a person having a photo like this, for example, I would compare myself and go, how the hell did you take a photo like that? And then with my photo, I'll show it in a minute. And then if I show my photo from a couple of years ago, my photos did not look anything like that. They look a bit like this. They looked very colored. They look very much like an artwork, and they look very much like pretty much a very deconstructive way of creating a very much oversaturated and over-edited photo. There's not many ways to really describe my photos back then, but you know what? I'm gonna describe them as oversaturated and over-edited, basically. We have evidence that I'm bad at something. For example, I'm very bad at over-editing, and so the simple solution is to just try to edit a bit more or less. Obviously, go on the software a bit more, but try to, you know, not be on the sliders too much and go 100% on stuff, because it's not gonna work out. And so now, with most photographers, they actually have evidence that they actually are bad at something, because you want to have something that you're good at, but you also have something that you're bad at that you're not really, you know, good at. For example, for me, I'm not really good at Photoshop, and so I've got evidence right now that I actually need to work on Photoshop a bit more and try to, you know, actually learn the aspects of Photoshop, which isn't really too much. It can be a bit too much, but you know what, that's completely fine. But here's the truth. Every single failure is actually a stepping stone, and it's not the end at all. But the only time that you actually are going to fail is by actually giving up and just putting the camera down and never touching it again. Because I did that for about 2 years during the COVID season and stuff, and I literally just played video games all day. I never really touched my camera, and that's when you actually truly give up and fail. But then I actually picked it up again, and then I kept taking photos from here on then. And then that's how you actually start to reignite your own passion, and you start to not think that you're a failure, because you're never a failure until you actually give up on that thing. Like it's because every single opportunity that you have to make a failure into a successful failure is by getting that evidence and making it into a positive way, so you don't actually, you know, be so harsh on yourself, because I can be very harsh on myself. And if you're very harsh on yourself, then how is that gonna make you feel in terms of trying to, you know, solve a problem? You're just gonna get really frustrated, you're gonna get very overwhelmed, you're gonna go, you know, pretty much getting pissed off with yourself because you're trying to solve for something, but it's not working out. Like it's not great. It's not great for photographers who are trying to, you know, be that positive. When you feel like you actually are failing, you're more likely to actually learn from those mistakes, and then you actually start to improve a lot more. And then once that evidence is being seen by you, once you actually see those failure and you see that and you actually see that as opportunity instead of a massive failure, then you actually start to grow a whole lot more than 80% of photographers who are just starting out. If you just see that little bit of evidence that you're very bad at something, once you see that as a bit of an opportunity for you to actually become just a bit more better, then you start to go really good at it. And start to actually just track that progress a bit more. Try to see of just like, you know, taking photos of different styles and just try to see if that style works for you. And if it doesn't, then change to another thing and just see, because photography is just an experimentation of what you actually like to take photos of, because everyone has different tastes. Not everyone's gonna like your photos. Some people will like your photos, and then you'll probably get a whole bunch of fans that actually like your photos. Because for me, I like to take photos of bands and stuff. I really like that, but it didn't really suit me because I had my casual work, and then I just couldn't really make it for most of the time, which I wish I could. I really like taking photos of bands, but it just didn't really suit my time. And for me, I just take photos of just street photography, and then I just try and make those into videos that you're seeing right now. and that's personally just my choice. I wish I did some band photography and stuff, but like it just didn't work out with my time. But I'll probably go back to it eventually. But you have to think about failure as something to really force yourself to really get out of, and just try to think about it as a way to adapt and really analyze your own photos. Because not many people like to analyze their own photos, or their old photos even. Because that way, once you tend to analyze your old photos, you tend to see what is actually wrong with the photo. And so with my photos, it can actually be a bit more darker than what it actually should be, or either the lighting's wrong, or either the angle was wrong, or the positioning, or the composition. See those little things there? Like for example, that photo over there. The composition's right. All those aspects that I just told you are all correct. But with the old photos that I used to post, none of those would actually be in there, because I never really knew what the hell composition was even a thing. I didn't actually learn about photography. Until about 3 to 4 years ago, because I never actually took it as a. I never really actually consumed that type of thing. I just kind of just went, oh, that's pretty cool, and then it just goes over my head, type of thing. Don't be that type of person that, you know, has a massive ego and they go, oh, I'm gonna be better than everyone, and then they don't consume the most basic aspect of photography, which is composition. I just kind of just took photos the way I liked it, and then once I actually learnt those mistakes that I actually did, I then adapt, analyzed, and then got better. That's the way you have to do it. But here are the 4 ways to actually really get better and actually try to take action with your own photography today. So number 1 is literally to shift your mindset. Shift your mindset from negative to positive. As for me personally, I went from a very negative photographer who likes to complain about a whole type of thing about my photos and seeing about the lighting and seeing about, you know, what went wrong and stuff, and then I over edited and stuff. Try to shift your mindset and just try to not compare yourself towards others. Instead, be inspired into not just photographers, but be inspired in your favorite movies or your favorite music or even your favorite books, for example. Like I learned that from Lucy Lumen. She's an Australian photographer, which I literally just watched a couple of weeks ago. I literally did an Instagram reel of it as well. And she talks about how to get inspiration not just from photos, but literally from your favorite movies, music, and just any other aspect that's not just photos. Because with photographers on social media, you tend to compare yourself towards them because they got 10 years of experience, and plus they're at their own chapter. They're in their own chapter. You're in your chapter 1. They're all the way to chapter 10. Never compare those two things. Never compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 10. So you gotta shift your mindset and just try to not be so comparing towards those things, and try not to be so envy because you're not all the way over there. You'll get over there eventually, but it's just gonna take a bit more time and for you to actually make the effort into that. And so number 2 is to actually enjoy the progress. Try to enjoy the journey, and try to enjoy the process of actually trying to be a photographer, and just try to be a bit more challenging towards yourself. Because you're not challenging yourself, then you have nothing to do. You have nothing to do, and so if you're going to start doing photography, I suggest to really document a 30-day challenge. Like that's what I did with my own YouTube. Like, because I wasn't really making much YouTube videos, so I suggested to myself to do a 30-day challenge and just try to make 30 videos about photography and different genres about photography that I'd never done before, and different little things that I thought would be fun. I didn't care how many views I get, I didn't really care about the outcome or the likes or the comments, and I just still published those every single day, and most of them were at home, and that was pretty challenging because, yeah, but anyways. But just try to challenge yourself and try to embrace that challenge. Never make the challenge a bit more negative towards you, just try to embrace it and just try to make it into a positive outcome for you as well. But number 3 is probably the most important part, is literally take action. Try to take action and actually try to practice effortlessly. Like literally go outside and just take photos and try to, create something of your own environment. Because if you don't take action with the information that you're consuming on YouTube and stuff, then that information that you just consumed is completely useless, and it's most likely brain rot. So if you just take action with the information that you indulge in, or you're just taking notes with it, that's completely better than just watching a YouTube video and just watching it and not actually, writing down shit. Because I used to do that whole heaps. I used to consume on tutorials of, like, for example, let's say top 5 camera settings to use. I didn't take notes of it, I just watched it, and then I got confused, and because I didn't take an action, I got even confused even more, and I kind of avoid camera settings. Even though pretty much the best aspect to really learn about is the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, because those are your 3 things that you kind of need for your own videos and photos. Jesus. And so take action and don't be like me and just be more of a doer and be more be more of a doer and don't be a consumer. Be a consumer, but just take information with that stuff that you're consuming as well. And number 4 is to literally celebrate wins. Literally, just celebrate wins, that like those little goals that you have and you've ticked them off or you're doing whatever. Just celebrate them regardless. And like, for example, for me, I actually won a photo competition, and I actually celebrated. And guess what? I just celebrated, went to the pub, had a chicken palmy with chips, and then that's how I celebrate with a bunch of my friends and stuff. And I was actually down in the South Coast, and I won a competition. It was probably my favorite photo. It was a black and white of the Seacliff Bridge, and that's probably my favorite photo. And many people think it was a drone shot, which I'm not kidding, it's not a drone shot. It's actually me just taking photos up high, and then I just kind of just took the photo, and then there you go. And it was like misty. It's a black and white photo. It's misty, and it's got like this really good, you know, blacks, whites, and it's got really good highlights and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And it's probably the best photo I've taken besides the other two photos which are in there, which I'll show you later, which I'll probably be on the screen. But yeah, celebrate those little wins. Try to be in photo competitions, because before I actually won that competition, I posted, I think, more photos into the first one, and I did about 22 photos or so. I can't really remember, but I posted about 22 photos into that. I didn't win a single thing. I came maybe like 5th, 4th, I don't really know. But then in the second one, I did it. I posted less photos, and one of them won. Out of probably the most hardest category there was in the competition, which was actually quite funny, because I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right. And the other two photos that had accolades and stuff were just like improvement. I don't really know. But anyways, it will be in the anyways. But yeah, celebrate the wins regardless of your outcome, and celebrate just any type of small win you have, even if it's a bloody big one. Just celebrate. Go crazy with it. Because why not celebrate a win? Failure is never the end, it's actually the start of your own growing, and just try to, you know, take photos a lot more, and just try to take a lot more of what we've talked about today. Just try to, you know, make some notes of it, literally. If you haven't taken down any notes from this video, I suggest to do so, because it's quite important for any type of photographer who thinks they failed, because you haven't failed until you've actually gave up. Whether it's a win or a lesson to actually take forward, just try to do the best you can, and just try to continue your journey into photography or any other aspect in your life, because every other failure is just a learning opportunity for you to actually grow, until you actually think about it as a massive mistake and you go, okay, I need to step down. Because, you know, sometimes we have those moments where we think, is this actually truly what we actually want to do? And if it's not, then it's not. But if it is, then bloody fantastic. But let me know in the comments, what is one failure that's taught you a massive lesson in photography, or any type of, or anything in your own life, as I really want to know. And yeah, but the one lesson, I'll share mine. The one lesson that I did was probably the one I've been speaking about the most, is probably editing. Editing is a very creative thing, and I thought with the beginning of myself, no. I thought in my beginning stages that I need to create photos that look like an artwork. That was probably the biggest mistake, but it's more so of how natural you actually want your photos to be, and how the photo you actually want to look, or how you actually want your photo to actually look. And so for me right now, I like to take photos and make them look like they're in summer, because I've got a preset with them, so I'm trying to use it as best I can, and I try to adjust it as much as I can, and just try and make it a bit more of a summer vibe, vintage, or any type of thing. But if you do want the preset as well, I'm just going to do a cheeky thing. It is in the description below as well. And yeah, but more so try to create your own photos from movies and stuff is probably a good thing as well. Like for example, let's say you're a big fan of Marvel movies. Try to make your photos out of Marvel movies or DC, you know, because that's what makes photography fun. You try to make things out of certain movies and stuff, because photo editing can be fun, but also it can be really boring, but that's okay. Anyways, that is about it for the video. If you have enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and also if you do think that you've actually failed photography, you haven't yet. Just take it as a learning opportunity, take a step back and reevaluate what you actually want to do with it, and just try to take action as best you can with your own self.